this is the project we're going to do today. These are a couple of practice sessions that I did with slightly different techniques. So I think the one we're going to try today is going to be a combination of how I did both of these. Use this stamp, which is number 135F, Palms with Bungalows. And these are all Stampscapes stamps. Use this one. It's number 125C. It's the Palm Trio. This one, which is 193E, Cloud Alto Cumulus. And from the Nature Set 5, we use the little boat, the little surfer, and the little flock of birds. And from the Nature Set 3, we use this little set of vines. And from the Nature Set 12, we use this big, I don't remember what it's called, cove or something. It's an ocean scene. And let's get started. To make things a little easier, I'm going to use some stamp positioners with this. And the first thing I'm going to stamp is the ocean. And I'm going to ink it up with Bahama Blue. Can't see what I'm doing. I'm inking it up with the Bahama Blues. This is Memento Bahama Blue. And I'm going to stamp it off on a piece of paper that I have in my stamp positioner. And then I'm going to take my stamp chamois and I'm going to remove the top part here where the bungalows are going to go. And I'm also going to erase where the rocks are. And I'm going to put in my chrome coat paper and make sure it's positioned just right. And then I'm going to stamp down. Okay, and I'll give that a second to dry. Okay, next I am going to stamp up with black Memento. And I'm going to stamp it off on just a piece of scrap paper. And as before, I am going to remove the part where the bungalows are going to go. And I'm also going to remove the rocks. And then I'm going to take a Stampin' Up, Stampin' Right marker in chocolate chip, and I am going to just slightly go over these rocks. And then I'm going to take some Sahara sand and I'm going to go over the sand portion here. And maybe also a little bit on the rocks. I'm going to put my paper back in, and I'm going to jut it up against the corner. And stamp it again. And give it a second to dry. Okay, and then we're finished with this positioner. And I have another one which I'm going to use to stamp the bungalows. And okay, I'm going to put my paper in another positioner. And this time I will stamp the whole thing in black. And I will just take a piece of paper here, and I'm going to stamp it off. And then I'm going to stamp it. Make sure it's still positioned correctly. And this time I'm going to color the leaves with my Stampin' Up Garden Green marker. This is a water-based marker, and so I'm going to just stamp up the leaves of the palm trees. Gonna huff on it a little bit, then I'm gonna restamp. And I'll give that a chance to dry. Okay, and we're finished now with this positioner. Zoom in a little bit here. And I'm going to take my garden green marker, and there's some areas here that need to be green, and so I'm just going to tap with my marker, the brush end of my marker, to fill in the green area that's behind the bungalows. And also there's some green here and maybe some over here. And give that a chance to dry. Okay, next we're going to stamp the clouds, and I'm going to use Stampin' Up Pool Party. And we're going to use the cloud stamp, and I'm going to stamp it with the notch side up. So I'm going to ink up the stamp. Okay, next I'm going to use my Bianyo number 48 marker, and I am just going to go over, this is an alcohol marker, and I'm going to go over the trees, and this is going to give it a little bit of a yellowish green tinge. Okay, next we're going to color in the sky and the water. We're going to use Stampin' Up inks, Soft Sky, Pool Party, Marina Mist, and Island Indigo. And I'm going to use my Tim Holtz blending brush. I've bought different ones for each of the color groups. So I'm going to use my blue Tim Holtz blending brush for this. Okay, I've got my ink set up from light to dark, and I'm going to use my blending brush and I'm going to start to do the sky and the water. Okay, next I'm going to put in the color for the sand and also for the bungalows. I'm going to use Sahara sand, crumb cake, and soft suede. And these again are Stampin' Up inks. Okay, I'm going to use my Tim Holtz blending brush again, the one that I've got for the brown color group. And I'm going to have the slider here up a little higher so that it's going to limit a little better where things are going to be colored. Okay, now I'm going to color the bungalows. I'm going to color the walls of the bungalow with Bianyo number 37 and number 33. And we'll start. Okay, for the roof of the bungalows, I'm going to use Color It alcohol markers. And I'm going to use EN1 and EG2 are the colors I'm going to use. Okay, next I'm going to take the marker, Bianyo marker 101, this alcohol marker, and I'm going to color in a little bit on the rocks to add a little bit of brown color back into the shadows on the rock. Okay, next I'm going to take a Fantastics. This is a special little marker that you can use with ink pads, and I'm going to use the pointy one. You can buy some that are kind of rounded also. So I took one of these pointy ends and I cut it with a pair of scissors so that it kind of has a flat top. And I'm going to use this with some white pigment ink. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the white pigment ink and I'm going to just blot it off a little bit. And then I'm just going to kind of gently tap along the flat edge here. And I'm also going to color the highlights of the rocks. Now to clean off this, I'm just going to rub it on my stamp chamois to rub the pigmenting off. This is the same way I clean off the Tim Holtz blending brushes also. It's just rubbing it on the stamp chamois. Okay, next I'm going to get the surfer and the boat into the scene, so I'm going to use Memento. Okay, next I'm going to stamp the palm trees that are over at the side here. And so I want to, first, I have a Tuxedo Black Memento marker, and so I'm going to lightly go over that with the Tuxedo Black. I'm going to stamp it off, and then I'm going to come back in here with my Stampin' Up Garden Green, and I'm going to color in the palm. I'm going to come in with the fine tip of my Memento marker and just kind of Okay, I'm going to try using some of my Distress Oxide ink, Lucky Clover. I just can't seem to get the leaves dark enough on the palm fronds down by the beach. And so since the Lucky Clover has some pigment ink properties, I'm going to use one of my Fantastics, and I'm just touching it directly to the I think I'd like to take my darkest blue. This is the Island Indigo, and I am going to add just a tad bit more up here. And I've decided I wanted to add some flowers to this, so I'm going to use my Art Impressions, the WC Mini Flower Set, and I'm going to use this flower bundle right here. And the two colors I'm going to use is a Marvelly Plume 2, number 55 Iris Purple, and number 8 Violet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the stamp, and I am just going to ink up the flower portion. I'm not going to ink up the stems. Yes. Or if we can consider it finished. And so what I'll do is I will just take a Marvelly Plume Sepia, number 45, and I'll take the fine tip and I'm going to sign my name. And date it. Although that wasn't quite dark enough, maybe I'll try the black. Okay, and so that's the finished product. I've brought it outside. The last thing I'm going to do is spray some acrylic coating on it. So I'm just going to spray a generous amount on it and let it dry.